Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I don't know about you, but I do love a good puzzle. It's why I find myself drawn to tactical games, because it's all about laying your pieces in the right place and then pulling the trigger on a whole sequence of events. However, that's not to say that even I, the man with the largest egg head in the whole company, has been able to breeze through every conundrum that's come my way. I mean, arguably I'm not even that smart at all, seeing as I chose to go back to university to do an English Masters, and literally I just use that as a bib now for Ewan at the moment, for all that's been worth. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I'm pretty sure that we've all come across a head scratcher so devilishly complex or convoluted that we've had to ask for help or look it up online. And if you didn't, well, I'm not calling you a liar, but come on, mate. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, pal. Come on. With this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 ridiculous video game puzzles everyone cheated for. Number 10, The Barrel of Doom, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Our list kicks off with one of the most infuriating and unexpected, air quotes, puzzles in any AAA game ever. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's Carnival Night Zone features an obstacle so frustrating and obtuse that it's actually gone down in history as part of 90s gaming folklore, the so-called Barrel of Doom. Near the end of the second act, players will find a barrel blocking them from proceeding, and though the barrel moves in when you jump on it, it doesn't drop low enough to allow Sonic and Tails to pass through. To put it bluntly, f*** you! At the time of the game's release, and for years after, the Barrel of Doom was an epic source of ire for poor gamers just trying to make progress, and it became a major talking point in gaming magazines. The game's lead programmer Yuji Naka even went on to apologize for including the puzzle, but the solution is hilariously simple if you know how. All you need to do is press up and down on the D-pad in order to move the barrel up and down, eventually with enough momentum so that Sonic and Tails can pass through the gap. The problem is that there's no visual clue for this, nor was it ever explained elsewhere, so players either had to get lucky or look up the answer to this. And remember, this was pre-internet, so Lord knows how long it took for the answer to become public knowledge. Number 9, The Piano, Silent Hill. The Silent Hill series has boasted its fair share of mind-melting puzzles over the years, with Silent Hill 3's Brookhaven keypad and Shakespeare anthology puzzles both testing players' mettle in particular. But there's a puzzle in the series in the very first game which proves to be, much like reading one of Josh's scripts, a soul-draining experience for all involved. I'm speaking, of course, about the piano puzzle, which requests the player to play the correct series of notes in order to retrieve the silver medallion and advance the plot as you venture into the foggy, boggy, silent, hilly-willy nature. The solution to this puzzle lies in a poem found on the classroom blackboard where 5 voiceless birds correspond to 5 silent keys on the piano. The poem cryptically hints at both the color of each bird and the key and the order in which they must be pressed. Oh, well, you think to yourself, I can remember this, right? Well, wrong, because you won't just need a pen and paper to memorize what's going on as much as you will a team of cryptographers, and probably mental maths wizards aplenty to make it through this without turning to others for help. Actually, that is turning to others for help. I've ruined my own metaphor. Anyway, I can barely play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, so this is well beyond my pay grade. Number 8, The Owl, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. Trust Hideo Kojima to categorically screw gamers before it was cool in his 1990 sequel to the original Metal Gear. Years before he had us battling the end for what felt like an eternity, Metal Gear 2 stumped players with an absolutely absurd late-game puzzle which trapped Snake behind a laser fence with no immediate means of circumventing it. Now, here's the thing. For some reason, the lasers are switched off at night, maybe in an effort to save power, or the fact that the base leaders think that crime also has to get an early night every once in a while. Who knows? Who cares? What is important is that you need it to be night in order to escape, and the only way to do this is to get this egg, right? And hatch it into an owl, which hoots and convinces the guard that it's night, so he leaves his post. I cannot make this up. This is exactly what happens, and I laugh each and every time I have to talk about it for 2 reasons. 1, because it must have driven people absolutely round the bend, and 2, it's a goddamn owl that convinces a bloke it's nighttime that you've hatched in your bloody fanny pack. Number 7, The Water Trap, ONIMUSHA WARLORDS. ONIMUSHA WARLORDS is a wonderful game, and if you've never played it, you absolutely absolutely owe it to yourself to check out Capcom's recent remaster, which is just, a slice of loveliness. However, it would be wrong of me to suckle at this sword-fighting and surrealist title without talking about the absolute pig iron that is the water trap. In short, you end up trapped in a room that's filling with water. Not good, right? So in order to drain the damp, you need to move this gold crest to the middle of the board. The explanation of what you need to do is simple, but the actual manipulation of the pieces is near impossible, and it's only made worse by the fact that this is against the clock. Oh, and the soundtrack is pretty much purpose-built to give you a heart attack, and trying to explain what to do without a video is pretty much the hardest thing around, so yes, all in all, this is awful. Number 6, The Rubber Duck, The Longest Journey. I'm not sure how to describe this next entry, so what I'm going to do is just read out the guide to solving this ridiculous puzzle, which can be found in The Longest Journey. So, you need this key. Now, this key is on an electrified railway track that you can't reach and just grab, and you have no idea what this key does, but you need it. So, how are you going to get it? Well, first off, you need a clamp. That's right, you heard me, a clamp. This clamp, which you can only get by taking off your ring and using it to complete an electrical circuit. Obviously, that's part 1. Next, you need this duck. Yeah, you heard me right. To get this duck, you need to throw bread on it for a seagull to peck the duck, puncture it, and allow it to drift down this rather horrible-looking waterway. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ooh, wet bread. I'm not a duck, I don't like wet bread. Ha ha ha, memes. What is this seagull thinking? But still, off it floats. You pick up the duck, pop a plaster over it, and then blow it back up. Pop the clamp through, take the bandage off, and let it deflate, closing the clamp together, allowing you to pick up the key with it. I am literally lost for words, and if you figured this out yourself, well, frankly, I don't believe you. Number 5, The Water Temple, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. No entry on this list is surely as infamous and disreputable as the iconically infuriating water temple from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Not so much a single puzzle as it is an intricate labyrinth of interconnected puzzles, it's the level that caused many players to throw up their hands in exasperation and just take a long, hard break from an otherwise majestic game. Now, water levels are already, much like your mum when this little meat devil comes visiting, a bit of a groaner for all involved. But throwing in multi-tiered chambers, a ridiculous iron boots mechanic, rubbish aquatic combat, and outrageously annoying bosses easily elevates the water temple to all-time video game infamy. And also, yes. See, I was drowning in pussy. Oh, Adam Cleary just managed to catch me at my lowest moment.
You know what you're gonna be, but that's, you know, you just take all the time you want, mate, if that's what I'm putting out.
In fact, in recent years, producer Shigeru Miyamoto confessed that he felt guilty for putting players through such a strenuous ordeal, and ultimately he nerfed the difficulty significantly for future re-releases. That is how bad it was. Number 4, the ZODIAC Spear, Final Fantasy XII. In the original version of Final Fantasy XII, the ZODIAC Spear was the strongest weapon in the game, but the requirements for obtaining it were both obtuse and unfair enough that many fans still believe to this day that it was simply a ploy for Square Enix to sell more strategy guides. And it's not hard to see why, as the game asked players to find 4 chests and not open them. That's like taking Ash to a clothing shop that only sells flame t-shirts and bowling shoes and telling her not to buy anything. Utterly impossible, as it's hard-coded into her bloody DNA. The game makes no mention that these chests are important, nor when the payoff for avoiding them might be, and things got so bad that the quest was later removed from the Zodiac Age re-release, with the spear now being much easier to obtain. However, before we all cheer, the spear was nerfed in a move that does seem rather spiteful by the developers. Number 3, The Baby's Laughs, PT. Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro's playable teaser for the cancelled Silent Hills reboots was released for free on the PSN back in August of 2014, and it became an immediate phenomenon. There's a real kicker to it. Nobody really seemed to know exactly how they reached the end of the PT demo. People did, but nobody really understood how. The game concludes with an extremely obtuse puzzle that has no immediately clear solution. In fact, many players managed to finish the game purely by accident, triggering a phone call which brings the demo to an end. But it wasn't until roughly a week after PT's release that the official way to solve this puzzle was deciphered. In order to make the phone ring, the player had to trigger 3 baby laugh sound effects, which have specific and, quite frankly, ridiculous requirements. Firstly, the player has to stand in the corridor and wait for the alarm clock to reach midnight, and that's pretty easy. And then you trigger the first laugh by walking 10 steps in any direction. The second requires you speaking the letter J into the PlayStation microphone and waiting 3 seconds. And the third is activated by simply putting down the controller, letting it vibrate, and doing nothing for a few seconds. The phone will then ring after being told you've been chosen, and you can exit through the nearby door, revealing the teaser trailer for Silent Hills. I'm sorry, but how are you meant to find this out by yourself? It's asking a little too much, methinks. Number 2. The world's most difficult trick. LUFIA 2 Rise of the Sinistrals. Mid-90s SNES RPG classic LUFIA 2 features a puzzle that is referred to as the world's most difficult trick, and they sure weren't kidding. Though it initially seems like a relatively simple sliding block puzzle, it actually requires an enormous amount of mental wherewithal and finesse, neither of which I have. Now, an algorithm was designed to perfectly complete the puzzle, and it took a mind-melting 116 steps to solve it. So even if you're playing the game nowadays and can keep a YouTube video to hand, there is no easy shortcut solution to power your way through. 116 moves, that is mind-blowing. And yes, this was again before the internet, so imagine having to go through this without any significant guidance. Well, at least the game warned you with the title, I guess. And number 1, the monolith, Fez. Smash hit indie platformer Fez stirred its fanbase into a frenzy when players found themselves stumped by the game's seemingly final challenge, the Black Monolith. In order to obtain Fez's final collectible red cube, players had to figure out how to make this sort of giant black thing that resembled Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey materialize, and it sent the internet into a meltdown. Now, eventually a code was found on a torn piece of a map in-game which made the monolith appear, but then nothing happened. For hours, days, the player base tried everything they could think of, and even the dev team had to get in touch to inform them that pressing the correct button combo would make something happen. 66,227 possible combinations later, the secret was finally revealed, all for a final red cube, and with a series of button presses that make absolutely no sense whatsoever, leading many to believe that the real solution has yet to be found. And with Phil Fish having disappeared from social media, we may never know the real answer. And there we go, those were 10 ridiculous video game puzzles that everyone cheated for. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. But before you go, you know the one thing that you should definitely not cheat, that is yourself. You should treat yourself as fairly as you possibly can, both physically and mentally. And if you're having problems with stuff in life, just remember these very salient points. It is okay to take a break and refocus on aspects that are giving you trouble in your life, and it is more than okay to ask for help. Trust me, people care way more than you might realize. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!